Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The Secret to Getting Clients to Trust You. As we continue Kitchen and Bath Month for October, I want to thank Mila for generously sponsoring this month's Design and Business webinar series. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing Rebecca West, CEO of Seriously Happy Coaching and Consulting. Rebecca, please take it away.
I am so thrilled that you guys have decided to join me for this webinar. It's one that is very near and dear to my heart because it really zooms out and takes a 10,000-foot view of your business and all the ways that you can position yourself to succeed or be doing some things that make it a little bit more challenging to succeed. So, as you know, because you signed up for the webinar, our topic today is the secret to getting clients to trust you. There we go. There we go. For those of you who have not had a webinar with me before, I'm Rebecca West. Until I moved to Paris 2 years ago, I spent 17 years running my interior design firm, Seriously Happy Homes, out of Seattle, Washington. In those years, we helped over 2,000 clients get happy at home. We had a 75% sales conversion rate, meaning that 3 out of every 4 people whose home we went to for an initial consult said yes to working with us. And we had over 180 published, very happy reviews. And these are the kinds of results that I would like you to get. And a big part of that is actually in getting or in having clients trust you, because it literally is the secret sauce to everything else going well. When our clients trust us, and you guys know this, right? When our clients trust us, the designs turn out better, the deadlines get met, and the budgets get followed because things stay on track. And as a result of that, your clients are thrilled and you get the reviews and the referrals and the return clients that you need in order to build a great business, and also that you deserve based on the talent that you have in your career, in this career of interior design. So, we're going to talk today about those key trust building milestones that happen throughout the journey that you have with your client. We're going to cover some surprisingly easy ways that that designers accidentally destroy trust with their clients. And we're going to try and leave you with some mindset and some tools that'll help you start building trust today with your clients, no matter whether you're just starting out as an interior designer or you have been at this for 15 or 20 years. Now, everything that I'm talking about today comes from 3 different courses that I teach: Nail Your Niche, Lead to Launch, and the Decide Method. And normally it would be bananas for me to try and combine all of this information into one 45-minute topic. But that's actually the point of today. We are really zooming out to see the whole forest, not the individual trees of building a business, because they really do all interact together. They reinforce or undermine each other. And the further along we are in the client journey, the more we start seeing the cracks that actually were frequently caused way earlier in the process. And sort of like diagnosing anything that's a little bit sick. The symptom doesn't always show up where the problem actually is. And so a lot of what I'm talking about today is meant to help you self-diagnose where the cracks or where the leaks are so that you end up having a great result later in the client journey. So what we're really talking about is the whole client experience that somebody has from the moment that they reach out to you, or actually, no, before that, the moment they find out that you exist, all the way to the end of the journey when you're getting those client photos and you're hoping for those reviews and referrals. So at that first part of the stage, you've got either some hopeful strangers or, in the best case scenario, a referral or a return client. And you're in this hope-filled attraction phase. It's just like dating. You're hoping that you found the one. And both the client and obviously you as the designer are hoping the same thing. As they move through that hope-filled attraction phase and all the signals are green and everybody's going, yeah, I like this person, you move into the confident agreement phase where you're like, okay, we've decided we like each other. We want to make a commitment to each other. And so let's figure out the terms of that commitment. Once you do that, then you're able to move into the journey. And if we relate this to a relationship, you got interested in each other, you got married to each other, and now we're having the marriage. Our marriages, our relationships are only as good as the rules that we set up in the first place. And the same thing is true here. So, what happens during attraction, what happens during the agreement phase, totally affects how the journey goes. And then, of course, after the journey is when we get all the results that everybody is hoping for: the glowing testimonials, the client referrals, the 5-star reviews, the great project photos, and above all, actually happy clients who are enjoying the results of the service that you provided for them. Now, you might be wondering why they wouldn't trust you in the first place. And the thing to realize is that your clients may not trust you for reasons that have nothing to do with you. They come to the table with a lot of baggage. So, that baggage, there's all kinds of places it can come from. But the 4 main ones are diva designers, like literally the unfortunate designers in our industry who will impose their own taste on clients. Anybody who's been in the industry longer than 5, 6 years has probably had a client with horror stories, and it breaks my heart when I hear them. So you've got these clients worrying, what if my designer does what they want and not what I want? And that's not an unfounded fear. It really does happen. Then we've got the money part. What's it going to cost? Not just the remodel, but the design fees themselves. And will those design fees be worth it? That's in their head. And of course, they're worried about it. You would be too if you were the client. Then we've got our not so friendly friend HGTV setting up completely inaccurate assumptions about what it actually means to work with a designer. It's great entertainment, but it does not paint us in a good light, because why in the heck does everything always seem to be a surprise? These shows actually make us look incompetent. And if somebody has not yet worked with a designer, they may not have any reason to believe that we're anything other than flaky people not good at our jobs, which is really unfortunate. And then all of those things are kind of just like little bugs in their head, little mosquitoes in their head, little unfounded worries. But some of them actually have bad designer baggage, or they know somebody who literally worked with a bad designer, and they've got some PTSD from that. Again, it has nothing to do with you and your services, but you're still going to have to deal with it. So you may be coming into this client relationship already facing an avalanche of reasons that your client is going to have trouble trusting you, and you have to build trust with them. So like, are you you're already behind the ball sometimes with these clients, in addition to having to do regular sales jobs like people in other industries. So when it comes to being an interior designer, our job is both to bust those myths that are in our clients' heads and build trust in our actual skills, in our actual experience, and in our actual process. So that, of course, is what we're talking about today. Now, before I dive into the details, I want to make sure that anybody who has to sign off early, because I know that happens sometimes, gets their client trust diagnostic cheat sheet. So grab your phone, grab this QR code if you get a chance. If you missed this window, obviously you can reach out to me and I will make sure that you get your hands on it. For those of you who are staying, don't worry, I'll show the QR code again later. However, if you can stay to the end, please do, because in all of my webinars, I give you the chance to win a free coaching session with me. But you have to wait to the end to find that out, and there's a deadline of today. So now you're incentivized to stick around. Let's talk about those trust building milestones. We've got that hope filled attraction phase. We've got the confident agreement phase. We've got the journey itself. Where are we building trust along this journey? The point to what I'm about to say is everything that you do while you're selling your client, right, during the sales process is going to affect what happens during the actual design process. And the problem is a lot of designers, especially newer designers, get so nervous during the sales process that they rush through it. And that paints them into a corner that's really, really hard to get out of later and can lead to the project getting completely off track, to clients finishing the design journey with you totally exhausted, where everybody, the contractor, the designer, the client, everybody's just like, I want this over. I want out of this house. I want these people out of my house. That is not the kind of finishing feeling that's going to lead to you being able to get the project photos and reviews and referrals that you want. So the very first place we have the opportunity to build trust with our clients is when they first, quote, meet you. But this isn't when you meet them yourself. You might not even know that they're looking at your website or your Instagram feed. Somehow they found out about your website and they land on it. When the very first thing I do when I'm evaluating a designer's website is I'm asking, is this website clear? Is it easy to understand? And does it show you as a specialist? Because if it's vague or if it's generic, it's not giving your potential client any reason to stick around, and it's not giving them any reason to choose you over your colleagues. So what we're looking for are services that are clear and specific and easy to buy, easy for your client to get their head around. And with those services, I'm looking for confident process details. We do A, we do B, we do C, because that shows you as a leader and people trust confidence, and clear pricing signals. Now, when I coach clients, when I coach designers, I encourage them to put actual pricing on their website. It's a very scary thing to do, and it takes some data collecting, first of all. But when we do that, we are showing clients that we are confident in what we're offering and we're confident in the numbers that we're demanding for the skills that we've got. I'm not going to go further into that, and it is not a requirement to put pricing on your website. But every time you put out a confident signal, it builds client trust. In addition, I'm looking at the portfolio and the about page. I want to see that they show off your unique expertise and that they connect what we're seeing in the portfolio and in your background to the skills that your client is actually looking for. Because again, that builds trust in you and your unique background and skill set. And then the third place that I'm paying a lot of attention is the FAQs. Do the frequently asked questions on your website help clients quickly see whether you are the right designer for them or not? So overall, before you even know that this person is interested in your services, we're trying to build trust by making sure that your website says to the client, this is why you should hire me. If you're in this situation, I am going to be able to help you. It should confidently signal the pricing and the processes and the unique design point of view that you are bringing to the table. Because while we are all administrators of projects, and there's a ton of, just spec sheets that we have to put together, we are also artists, and every single artist has a different fingerprint. But you would not know that from most of our websites. Most of our websites really kind of look like each other, which makes it really hard for our clients to build trust in us and say unequivocally, this is the designer that I want to hire. So that's the first milestone. During the hope-filled attraction phase, you don't even know that they're looking at you. Then we move into the phase where you get to find out somebody's interested, which is very exciting. They fill out your contact form. And this is another opportunity to build trust that is very frequently missed by designers. And what I'm looking for as a coach is, does your intake form ask questions that are unique to your areas of expertise in interior design? What do I mean by that? Well, if you're a personal wellness focused designer, if that's the reason that you design, then ideally your intake form would ask questions about, for example, somebody's allergies or key points of daily stress or their personal wellness goals. Because that way you can get your head around why they're reaching out to you while reinforcing and shaping the idea that this is what you pay attention to as a designer. Because if you don't tell them what you're paying attention to, they are making assumptions, and assumptions do not lead to good outcomes. On the other hand, if you're a kitchen and bath engineer, you might be asking them about their specialty appliance wish list, or their specialty storage needs, or their specialty cooking habits, because those specialty cooking habits might lead to a certain kind of venting that you need to provide for them. And the moment that you show up for your initial consultation, you can evaluate their home and go, yes, what they're asking for is likely feasible or not likely feasible within the budget that they're telling me. It makes you look like so much more of an expert when you're able to walk in with that information and then be confident as a leader looking at the scope of work that you guys are talking about. All right, so both of those were during the hope-filled attraction phase, right? First when they land on your website, then when they fill out your intake form. Now we're into that confident agreement phase, both indicating that everything has been green lights. We should move forward into a relationship. That first starts with your discovery and consult process. And what I'm looking for is, who's in charge? Is it you, which it should be, or is it them? I'm going to be asking you, like, are you giving away answers for free during your design consultations? Because a well done design consultation shouldn't even leave room. It shouldn't leave time for you to give away free advice. Plus, giving away free advice, even though it feels generous in the moment, does not build your client's trust in you because it doesn't make you look like a confident, experienced designer who has a process and has important questions to ask during the consult process. We don't have time to give away free advice. And that's separate from the fact that we should be paid for our advice. That's not even addressing that side. Are you charging money for your consult, but not actually giving them value? Now, what value means can really vary. And I have some designers who charge for their initial consult and others who do not. The key here is, do you feel confident telling them that they have to pay for that initial consult? Because if you don't feel confident, they're like dogs. They can smell fear. They will feel your lack of confidence, and immediately you have eroded trust. I would much rather that you don't charge for that consultation, maybe at the beginning, maybe as you're building your confidence, if that's what it takes to present as a confident leader in front of your client. Because every time we erode trust, especially in these early phases, that's when we're setting ourselves up for really big struggles once we actually start the design journey with our clients. And that's assuming we even land the project, because confidence is what sells the project in the first place. And then, kind of to the point of all of this, are you letting them lead the meeting? Are they setting the timeline? Are they deciding what happens next? Because if so, you are not showing yourself as a confident leader. And they need to feel that you are a confident leader if they're going to trust you to lead them through this $100,000 project, this $1 million project, this $10,000 project. Whatever these numbers are, they're not insignificant, and they need and deserve to trust you, and you need and deserve their trust. And remember, this first meeting that you have with them, whether it's on the phone or in person or on Zoom, it's setting the tone for all the future meetings that you have. Just like when we set the rules for our dating relationships during the first weeks of being in a relationship, and then we wonder how 30 years later we ended up always being the one who's emptying the dishwasher and sleeping on the left side of the bed. A lot of these rules get set before we ever are conscious of setting them. But as business owners, we have to be conscious of setting them, because otherwise we literally could have an unprofitable business. So that's trust building milestone number 3. The final one is when we're all like, okay, let's do this. It's time to sign a contract. This is the design agreement phase. The first thing I'm looking at is whether your design contract is an invitation to work together or just a legal brick wall. Frequently, I will find that designer has a pretty good onboarding process and it's very on brand. And then they slap this legal brick wall in the face of their clients, and it's it feels awkward because it doesn't even fit the personality of the designer, frequently because it was written by either a lawyer or it's a template from another designer who has a totally different brand vibe. It's really important to write your design agreements in a way that makes your client feel comfortable moving forward with you. And there are lots of tricks for doing that that are beyond the scope of this webinar, but know that it is possible. Secondly, maybe even more important, is there a clearly defined scope of work? Because if there isn't, this won't necessarily erode trust at this moment in the process. But later on, when there are miscommunications based on the scope of work that they assumed was included, that's when you're suddenly going to have a whole avalanche of trust eroded right at the moment where you need them trusting you because you need them making design decisions and trusting your design guidance. And is there clear, confident pricing? Like maybe you didn't put pricing on your website, but it sure as heck better be clear in the design agreement. Is there clear, confident pricing? Are there timeline boundaries? And are there processes for extenuating circumstances? If these things don't exist in your contract, that's when your project can just drag on forever. You start to resent your clients. They feel that from you. If there's no clear pricing, no clear pricing process, I literally have clients reach out to me because they're going, my clients don't know when they're supposed to pay me and they're upset with me and I'm trying to finish their project. And I'll look at their design agreement and go, I wouldn't know when I'm supposed to pay you either. It's really crazy. So, you don't have to hire me. Just show your contract to a friend who's not in the industry and say, would this make sense to you if you were my client? Just get an outside eye on it because you know what you mean by that contract. But it's really, really important that your client knows what you mean by everything in your contract. The really cool thing is if you do milestones number 1, 2, and 3 really, really well, particularly things like good pricing signaling early on in the process, then there should be no surprises in the design agreement. And that means it should be really easy for them to sign and make them really eager to sign it because it's just going to be this fantastic recap of everything they already know. And it's going to literally build trust because they're going to be like, wow, yeah, this is everything she said that we were going to do. It's all written down in black and white in front of me. There are no surprises here. It lowers their blood pressure and puts the final cherry on top of them trusting you as you move into the design journey itself. We want to build trust at every single step of the process, including the steps where we don't get any face time. So on your website, show off an area of expertise. In your intake form, ask smart, useful intake questions. Don't just rely on the generic form from your website that says name, email, and tell me a little bit about your project. They're not going to give you the information that you need because they don't know what information you need. Impress them at the consult, in part by being prepared because you got very important information from the intake form, and then make them an irresistible promise by creating a design agreement that reflects what they asked for in the first place and shows them a clear path to how they're going to get what they're needing from you. Now, that's during the whole onboarding process, but there is still a lot of opportunity to build trust during the actual project. So while big picture, you're really harvesting trust during the actual project, saying, please trust me. Let's make these decisions. Let's move forward. I know this is scary. You still want to make sure that you're not eroding trust. And the way you do that is number 1, to regularly revisit their goals and priorities. You cannot assume that your client is actually keeping an eye on their goals and priorities. They're going to get lots of shiny object syndrome. And you also can't assume that their goals haven't changed because what they thought they needed may evolve over time. So you want to make sure that you're tying your design suggestions back to what they said they wanted. And that gives you an opportunity to check in and make sure that those still are their highest priorities. Second is you want to help them make informed decisions. This was really one of the things that set my company apart from a lot of my colleagues. We never dictated design solutions or decisions to our clients because, not because we weren't diva designers, but because it was in our own self-interest. Dictating leads to second guessing. Because what'll happen is you're going to be like, you should go with this green tile. I'm going to say it confidently. And they're going to be like, well, she's a designer. I guess I should trust her and say yes. And they might even be excited about the green tile. Then that night, they call their sister and they're like, I'm so excited about the green tile. And their sister's like, ew, green. Why would you do green? If they don't understand why they chose the green tile, that's when you're going to get those panicked midnight texts because they're like, I don't know. And now I'm wondering. And my sister had a really good point because she really gets design. So help your clients make informed decisions, which actually ties back to the first point here, which is tying those decisions back to the goals and priorities they told you they had from the very first time they sent you the intake form and, of course, in the consult process. And finally, when things go sideways, which they invariably will because that is the nature of our business, make sure that you are the one having the hard conversation. Go to them quickly, calmly, and with a proposed solution. That way, if another problem gets revealed, maybe by the client when you're not there or by the contractor, the client already knows, they can just say like, that's weird. But I know that my designer is probably totally on top of it because you've already proven that to be the case throughout the journey so far. Make sure you're always the one coming to the client first. Never try to hide something. If you don't have a proposed solution immediately, don't wait. It's much more important to go to the client quickly and then just say, I'm working on a solution. I'll get back to you by such and such time, but set their mind at ease that you're on top of it. Never assume that they haven't seen it. Even if they haven't said anything, clients frequently are walking the project and worrying about things that they don't even need to worry about, much less seeing things that are definitely wrong and wondering if anybody has noticed. So that's the fifth part of building trust at every step. Throughout the onboarding journey, show off an area of expertise, ask those smart intake questions, impress them with your leadership at the consult, make them an irresistible promise through the design agreement that is simply a recap of everything they should already know, and educate them as you help them make decisions. Don't dictate to them. What about the other side of the coin? How do designers destroy trust instead of building it? Here are 4 terribly effective ways that you can do just that. I don't recommend doing it though. The first one is overpromising and underdelivering. This is a classic. That shows up in things like agreeing to hit an unrealistic deadline and then not meeting it, obviously, or meeting it but having so many holes or errors that the work is just crap, right? That does not build trust. It erodes it. Or saying you'll be on site for every install and then sending your assistant. It's okay to send your assistant, but don't promise it's going to be you and then fail to deliver on that promise. That erodes trust. Second way, avoiding those hard conversations. That looks like things like not addressing scope creep and then sending a surprise bill. Nobody appreciates a surprise bill. If scope creep is happening, it must be addressed before you send a surprise bill or you're eroding trust. Because now they're going to wonder with every single decision that they make, is this in scope? Am I going to be charged more for this? Right when you do not want your clients worrying about those things, you need them making decisions and trusting you. Or failing to warn clients when a choice is going to create a delay. How can a client make an informed choice if they don't know the repercussions of that choice? They may have made a very different choice if they'd understood that this one was going to create a delay. Priorities are always being weighed against other things. but they hired us because they don't know how this is supposed to go or what best practices are. So we have to inform our clients when they're making a decision about what that decision means, especially if it changes any parameters that were already discussed. The third way is lack of clarity. That looks like vague proposals that don't spell out those deliverables or deadlines, because then we're working off of assumptions. And when those assumptions prove to not be true, boom, there goes the trust. Now they're wondering about everything else. Or those invoices that don't clearly show what's been paid or what is still owed. Every time we make a decision like that around money, we are asking for trust to just evaporate, because that's the thing they're most worried about. That's the main limit on most design projects is how much it's going to cost. And if they're just watching money flow away and they don't know how much is still left to flow away or what they've actually paid for already, they are not paying attention to you or the design process. It's like they have bees in their head and all they can hear is that terrible, terrible buzzing right when they should be able to listen to you. And the fourth way is disorganization. For example, forgetting to send the proposal when you promised to send it. It's not that big of a deal. You said it'd be on Monday, but it's not till Wednesday. Except for every single time you miss a small detail in an industry where details are the thing that matter, you plant a little seed of doubt that makes them hyper aware of all the other details. And even something as small as a typo following up an error like this can make them go, I just don't know if this person's got their shit together. That's not a question we want our clients wondering. Or, this is a terrible one, losing track of client selections and having to resource. I mean, it's bad enough if you have to ask the client what the selection was, but let's say that selection that they fell in love with isn't even available anymore. That is not a way to build trust. It is a way to erode trust. So disorganization, cannot have that in our design companies or in our employees. Remember, these things apply to our teams as well. Now, the fifth, and I think silliest way to erode trust is to offer something to your clients that they didn't even ask for and then fail to follow through. You may have heard this story from me before if you've been on a webinar with me. My husband and I went to an Italian restaurant. We're having a lovely time. We order our food. The food comes and the waitress says, would you like fresh ground pepper with that? And we're like, yeah, who doesn't like fresh ground pepper? And she goes away, presumably to get the pepper, and she never came back. So my husband and I are sitting there and our food is getting cold and we're wondering, how long do we wait? And is this person ever coming back? All because of something that we didn't even ask for and didn't know we wanted, but was offered to us. And this happens with design clients. We show them a mood board and they fall in love with everything, only to find out none of it was actually aligned with their budget. We've got to make sure that we are not offering something to our clients that they didn't even ask for and then failing to deliver on that. Two real life examples of this that are more painful. One was when I went to hire somebody to help me with my French visa before moving to France. There was a gal that I was working with, and she had a brilliant onboarding process. She'd had a place where you could go ask her an hour worth of questions for free. She wrote a book. She said, read this book before you ask me questions. I read it cover to cover. I mean, I was in. And I knew that her services would cost $7,000. Now, when we had our consult call, she said, I'm on vacation. I can send this to you on Monday. And I said, you're on vacation. Have your vacation. This isn't a rush. You can send it whenever you're ready. She goes, no. I'll send it Monday. No problem. And as you're probably guessing, Monday came and went. And actually, 2 weeks came and went. And I never heard from her. Now, this is for an administrative process, something with the French government. So the details matter. It's why I'm hiring somebody. So by the time we actually communicated again, I didn't have any trust that she was organized behind the scenes and I could trust her to meet deadlines that really mattered. And she lost a $7,000 sale from somebody who literally had a fist of money and was ready to give it to her. These things happen in real life. Smaller, but just as important, was a client that I worked with who was working with an interior designer on a brand new build, also had a landscape designer. And the interior designer, even though this wasn't within the scope of work, had the brilliant idea to say, I see that you're doing all this landscape work. Why don't we have the plumber install an extra yard spigot over here so it'll be easy to water these plants? And the client was like, that's a brilliant idea. I love it. And the designer said that they would put it on the plans. And I'm guessing you know what happened next. The designer never put it on the plans. And so it was a detail that got missed and that the client then had to follow up on. But it's not just that the client had to follow up on that's the problem. It now plants a seed of doubt about the other details that might be being missed in the design process. Now, there might not have been any other details that were missed because this particular thing was out of scope. It's out of the norm. It's not the kind of thing that would be on a designer's radar. But this designer brought it up and put it on the table as something wonderful for the client and then failed to follow through. No matter what else you do, your client will hyperfixate on the thing you didn't do but promised to do. And that is how you erode trust right when you need trust from your clients. So now let's flip it back to the positive side. Let's talk about those 6 ways to build client trust. My very first one is my most favorite. This is kind of my I don't know. I'm always saying this stuff in a megaphone. You've got to pick a lane because people trust experts. Everybody wants to hire a professional who knows the literal details of what they're going through. In the case of design, our clients want people who know their home type, their project size, their budget, and their style. And we all do different things. We have different areas of expertise in all of these different arenas and plenty of others. But like I said at the beginning of this talk, way too many of our websites never reveal that. So please, please, please pick a niche, pick a lane, lean into it with courage and bravery. I promise you, it will not be limiting. It will actually make sales easier because your clients will trust you more before they ever meet you. That's the only thing you take away from this webinar. It will be a good thing. Second, spell out clear, straightforward expectations. What will be delivered to your client and when? And likewise, what do you need from your client and when? There are certain things that we need from our clients in terms of homework, in terms of decisions at certain times. But if we don't effectively communicate that to the client, how are they supposed to know? This isn't their job. And really think about how you're going to know if the project was a success and that it's complete. Because putting a bow on the project and closing it is a really hard thing to do if you don't define when the project is over. And that can really eat into your profits, and it can lead to a lot of client exhaustion too. Third, like I said earlier, educate, don't dictate. Explain your design choices in terms of your client's goals so that you're building confidence in the choice that they are making, because at the end of the day, it's their choice that they're actually making. And this will reduce second guessing, making your life as a designer a million times easier. Number 4, be transparent and proactive. Now, transparent does not mean that you have to show your clients your invoices or tell them your markups, okay? I'm talking about being clear with how you work and what they should expect. So but also when things go sideways, you've got to step up and say, hey, we've got a problem. Whether it was your fault or isn't your fault doesn't matter. Own it, fix it. And if it was your fault, adjust your process so it doesn't happen again. If the material is discontinued, bring that to the client along with a solution. I had that happen plenty of times. And I was actually really skilled at getting them even more excited about the second solution than I was the first solution. And your enthusiasm, your excitement about the replacement will go a long way to easing the sting of them having to reselect and maybe losing something that they really had fallen in love with. Be consistent. People really do judge books by their covers. So you want to make sure that every detail reflects your brand. And I'm talking about like literal details. Be consistent with your colors and your fonts. Keep your car tidy. Keep your clothes tidy. Can't tell you how many times clients would walk up to my car to see me off or to help load the tile into my car. I want them to see that I'm an organized person, that I've got the details together. And it's not just in the actual design work and design file where they're going to be subconsciously judging my organization systems. Set up the systems that let you stay on top of client contracts and invoices and notes, and always be referring back to those to keep yourself on track and to make sure that your client is still on board with the priorities you set in the beginning. And be firm and follow through. So figure out what you need in terms of processes and policies to deliver your best work. There are certain things you're going to need. There is a certain budget that you're going to need. And there's certain client homework that you're going to need. So make sure that you decide what those things are, like write them out in black and white. Share some of it on your website, share some of it in your design agreement, in your consult process, and what to expect forms that you might leave behind. Reinforce it while you're signing the design agreement, and then stick to whatever policies you have put in place. Because clients are like kids. They know exactly which rules are the real rules and which ones are the optional rules. And of course, if you say you'll do something, follow through and make sure you do it, especially in the early phases of onboarding your client when they don't have any reason to trust you yet. And they may be walking in with a lot of mistrustful baggage that, as I said at the beginning of this, wasn't even your fault. But the big question, like I said, I've got a big old megaphone on this niche thing. This big question is, have you embraced a focused area of design expertise that your clients want? Can you confidently raise your hand and say, I am really great at this and this and this? And even with confidence, say, I'm not great at that and that and that. And if you're looking for that, I'm going to refer you to another designer. That is the kind of confidence that actually sells people on working with you instead of another designer. If you haven't really embraced a niche yet, fix that first. Because at the end of the day, people trust experts. You do not have to take my Nail Your Niche class in order to nail your niche. But if you're floundering, know that it's there for you as a resource. All right. With that, we're going to go to questions because I know there's always a lot of questions. But before I do, as I promised, there is an opportunity to win a coaching session with me. That requires taking action today. So by midnight today, Pacific time, which gives any East Coasters on the call 3 extra hours, all you need to do is sign up and download the Client Trust Diagnostic Cheat Sheet that I put together to go with today's webinar, which is meant to help you ask the same questions of yourself that I just went through in this webinar and be there later in a year or two. If you're like, my system seems a little leaky, I wonder what could be going on, you can use it then as well. So download it today, and then somebody will win a free coaching session with me. Up to 3 people will win a free coaching session with me. Make sure you use an email address that you check because that is how I will let you know. And you only have 24 hours to say, yes, thank you, I'm super excited, or I will pass the winning along to another person. Okay? So there you go. With that and all of my advice in your heads, let's go to questions. Brian, what have we got?
Thank you, Rebecca, for your wonderful and informative presentation today. We do have a few questions from the audience, so let's dive right in. Rebecca, so our first question of the day is, thinking about your beginnings, Karen's wondering, have you ever experienced a situation where trust was accidentally broken with a client? What happened and how did you address it?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Oh, I wasn't expecting that question. And it's because I worked so hard at this particular aspect in my company. Um, a small example that comes to the top of my mind is once I started building a team and I had a bunch of designers on my team, I wasn't able to control the client experience as much. And I did have a client who had one of my designers come out, and it was for one of our quick action sessions. So for about $400, we go to somebody's house for 90 minutes and we give them the very best guidance that we can, and then we're done. And afterwards, I got a 1-star review on Yelp, which sucks, super bad. So I reached out to the client and I said, this isn't up to my standards. What happened? What can I do to make this right? And I decided to go out myself as the owner and redo the consultation, had a great time. And in reflecting on it, I think it was the client, not my designer. My designer did everything they were supposed to. This client really was unsure about what they were even asking and wasn't able to ask good questions. And that's really, really hard to field if you're a newer designer. So it was a situation where, as the owner, I was able to rescue it, even though it wasn't the designer that was the problem. It still was my reputation on the line.
Wonderful. Thank you for that insightful answer. Our next question is, if the client changes the scope of work, do we need to sign another agreement? And then what happens if it's multiple times?
The short answer is absolutely. If you have a defined scope of work, like you should, and they're asking for work outside of that, you just need to make it very, very clear. So a lot of designers won't necessarily sign an additional scope of work. They'll make the additional scope hourly if they're doing a flat fee for the rest of it, for example. But the main thing is that request and their agreement to pay you additional money for this additional scope has to be in writing. So at minimum, it should be in an email where you say, yes, I can totally help you with the window treatments in all of the rooms. And that means X, Y, or Z. Are you good with that? And get their written acknowledgement. There are too many moving parts for everybody to, quote, remember that later. Everybody's going to remember it later differently. So best practice is always a signed contract. But whether or not you have to go all the way to a signed contract will depend on the size of the project and a bunch of other factors. But no matter what, get it in writing, not in a text. Do it in some sort of format that will be easy to search and find and keep as a record later.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Jason is wondering, what strategies do you use to balance transparency with professionalism when a project hits a delay or challenge or delay?
I mean, it's really, wait, ask the question again.
Jason is wondering, what strategies do you use to balance transparency with professionalism when a project hits a challenge or delay?
Yeah. So to me, the transparency is the professionalism, but we're not talking about like showing them the mess behind the scenes. Like the behind the scenes can be some serious chaos. You're putting out fires left and right. They don't need to see the stress and they don't need to see the chaos, but they do need you to acknowledge, hey, this thing has happened and it may mean X, Y, or Z, or it will mean X, Y, or Z, depends on the information you have. So the key is you just want to make sure that you're the one going to your client and saying, things are going a little different than expected, and I have a solution. But you do not need to show them the chaos. And you really, really, really do not want to be pointing any fingers. Every time we assign blame, it just makes us look bad. So even if like your contractor totally did something stupid, just walk past that part and go to the solution. A really good example of that was I had a contractor who didn't want to put the pony wall in the kitchen where I wanted because he didn't want to move the electrical. And as all of us know, you can't just move the pony wall because that changes the cabinet order and a whole bunch of other things. And so when I recognized it, I started by letting the client know, hey, there's a discrepancy between my drawings and what's happening on site. I'm already in touch with the contractor for us to figure out what has happened and how we're going to get back on track to what the drawings show. So that's an example, but I didn't say anything bad about the contractor. I always say something like, I'm not sure what happened here, but we are going to fix it. And by we, I mean me and the contractor, or whoever's on the team with me. It's very important that we show up as a team, no matter what's happening behind the curtain.
Thank you for sharing your recommendations on that. Our next question is, what's your approach to turn a hesitant, let me think about it, into a confident, yes, let's do it when communicating with clients?
I like that question because frequently, if that yes, let's do it isn't happening, the ability to get them there or that moment to get them there is often past. Because by the time we ask somebody to say yes to us, we should have already ideally built so much trust and confidence in what we're offering them that they want to say yes. So if they're hesitating, the next step is to figure out why. Is what you're proposing actually aligned with what they're trying to do? And it's really tricky to do that after the fact. So this is where we go back to the intake form, for example. If we have really smart questions on the intake form, then we can walk into the consult and say, okay, I understand that your goals are to create a kitchen where you and your husband can cook together at the same time. Just by reflecting their goals to them, they're able to be like, or subconsciously they think, this person is already paying attention to me. They're already listening to me. And moments like that are what build to them going, yeah, I want to do this with you. So we could go into sales techniques that are about turning a no into a yes, or finding the hidden obstacle. But if you follow the process we used at Seriously Happy Homes, you uncover those obstacles before you ever ask them to say yes.
Thank you. Our next question is on the flip side of that question. Julie is wondering, what do you do when a client starts second guessing their decision and getting outside opinions that conflict with something they previously loved?
So that definitely happens. It happened for me, it happened for my team. And it's because they're spending a ton of money and they're talking to people they trust, and they've known their sister a lot longer than they've known us. And maybe we haven't built as much trust as we could. When that happened, I was pretty upfront about it. Like, I would literally say to my clients, okay, I'm not sure where we're off track here, because I understood that our goal was A, B, and C. And we chose this green tile because it aligns with A, B, and C. Am I misunderstanding your priorities, or have your goals changed? I would take them back to the initial inspiration photos that they shared with us, because that was a really important part of the homework that we assigned to our clients. And I would say, do these rooms still represent what you want this bathroom to look like? So I kind of would call them out, but in a really soft, gentle way, to be like, I can only work with the information that you're giving me. Is this information accurate or not? And frequently that process would uncover either that they just didn't feel confident, right? And that's something that then I would do some basically some psychological with them to help them get confident in their own decisions, since they're the ones who are going to live in this house, not their sister. Or it would be a realignment of goals, which sometimes meant an additional scope, because if they've gone 4 steps forward in the process and signed off along the way, and now we have to go 4 steps back, that's not on me if I did my job well along the way. So the outcome depends on the situation, but really it's about going to your client and saying, hey, I don't know if we're on the same page. Let's have a quick chat to make sure we are, so that we make sure we're on track, or we get back on track.
Thank you for that. Our last question of the day is, you spoke about the ways designers might unintentionally break trust by creating big proposals, under delivering, and losing track of client selections. Can you share more common missteps you see and how designers can avoid them?
Oh, there's so many. Okay. One is holding meetings that are way too long. Okay, I had a rule in my company where a meeting could not last longer than 3 hours, because at 3 hours, the clients are glazing over. Most of our meetings lasted an hour and a half. And the 3 hour meetings usually meant that we were going to several different showrooms. So it was broken up by drive time and coffee stops. So that's a big one, because they're literally facing decision fatigue at that point. And the decisions that they make once they're glazed over, they won't even remember making them. So now you're going to either have to reselect or re-solidify those designs or decisions. Another one, this is actually really going into this, the decide method, is in how we present the design solutions that we're offering. My analogy for this is that sometimes we'll buy something like a piece of clothing that we really love, but we never get to wear it because it never goes with anything else. And that shows up in interior design. We're like, hey, client, do you like this tile or this coffee table or this lamp? But we don't give them any context for what it goes with. They might absolutely fall in love with the lamp, but hate all of the ingredients that would go with that lamp. So really giving your clients as much context as they can to see how the ingredients go together will build trust in your vision. They can kind of see where this is going, and it'll help them make a better decision, not just because they love the lamp, but because they love it as an ingredient in the overall vision. And that's just something that's really about honing your presentation skills and your confidence, right? So that you can inform the client, like, this is what we're trying to achieve based on your goals and priorities. This is what my proposal is, and here's how it aligns with your goals and priorities. It's constant client education. Losing track of information is a huge one. That's unforgivable. I mean, you can miss a detail or two, but you need to have solid processes in place, because if your clients see you losing track of information, they're going to second guess everything that you do. And then nickeling and diming. I hate when I see this. Like, we are in, even small projects are expensive. We are in a luxury market, no matter whether you're serving the mid-market client or the uber luxury client. And so when you choose to piece out fees like credit card fees, or you don't clarify the scope of work and then you send surprise bills, all of those things put attention on the single dollars that are flowing out of their bank account, which adds up to tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're focusing on that and worrying about the hours that you're putting in instead of trusting the outcome. This happens more in hourly billing, but it can absolutely happen in flat fee billing too, in large part because designers who say they're flat fee don't always mean it. Frequently they mean like, I think this will be a $7,000 fee, but they really mean I'm allowing 47 hours for this, and I'm going to charge you if it goes over 47 hours. Clients can't control how many hours it takes us to design something. And that creates anxiety about how much they're going to have to spend. And that, it's not like that's a bad business model, it's a normal business model, but it doesn't build client trust and confidence in the process.
I personally really like the analogy about buying clothes, but not knowing what to wear with it. I think it's very relatable for products. You know, when they see it, they might like it, but they're wondering about how to place it. But all right, well,
Exactly.
all right, Rebecca, before we end today, do you have any final thoughts for our audience?
Oh, yeah. If you're giving me the megaphone back, pick a
Yep.
niche. Allow yourself to become an expert, because not only is that going to build your client's trust in your expertise, but it's literally going to allow you to become an expert. If you're not trying to do 100,000 different things, then you can build your knowledge base in a certain area. You literally can get better at it and become the expert in it, which, if paired with flat fee billing, allows you to actually make more per hour, because over time you will get more efficient in your area of expertise, but you won't have to charge less because you're still delivering all the value that you were when you were a little slower in that area of expertise. So, like, literally, if you do nothing else, do the scary, scary thing of leaning in to a niche because it will change everything else that happens in your business.
Thank you again, Rebecca, for sharing your expertise with us today. A huge thank you to our wonderful audience for attending today's session. Until next time, I hope everyone has a wonderful day.